All right.
We is live. Off we go.
Excellent.
Let's see who shows up for the entertainment of the century.
Of the century? I don't know about that, man. Maybe of the week.
No, we'll go for the century, man. We're still early in the century. You know, we can be the best entertainment of the century. Actually, no, it's
Well,
really
I
hard.
guess.
No, it made me think. It's really hard to compete with the insanity that exists right now.
Well, yeah, I don't think we're the entertainment of the century, but definitely of the week, I'd say.
Oh, okay. Well,
Or helpful as well.
How about
Or helpful and entertaining.
entertainment of the hour? Let's narrow our focus. Let's.
Oh, come on. You're going to start off big and grand by saying of the century and then narrow it down to the hour? Come on. That's way too much of a jump. Way too logical there.
Well, the problem was I started thinking logically there, and I started analyzing. I went, wait a minute. No, there's just way too many other things that are.
Not cut the logic in half. You can't have full logic, only half logic. So entertainment of the week.
All right, we'll go with entertainment of the week. We'll stick with entertainment of the week then. Why the hell? Other than that, all of that's going good. We've got everything seems to be good. Our sounds seem to be leveled out today and seem to be happy. We've got all kinds of other miscellaneous stuff to pull together.
So entertaining thing regarding cats. They keep forgetting that it's raining out.
Oh, yeah.
So they keep whining to get out. We let them out. 5 minutes later, they're whining to get back in. Then they look at us so offendedly, like, wait, what? Why'd you let us out there? Why'd you put us in the water? What are you doing to us humans? It's like crazy cats.
Yeah, well, you know, cats are stupid.
Or they have blowfish memories.
They might have blowfish memories. Yes, hello, me. Always like it when I say hello to myself.
Absolutely, man. You got yourself. It's the best conversation.
Well, it's the only intelligent conversations I ever have.
I've heard, actually, I didn't hear it. I read it on a shirt. Of course, I talk to myself. Sometimes I need expert advice.
Yes.
I like that one.
That's the one I was looking for. I was looking for that one there. Searching my memory for that particular phrase there. Because, yeah, I've seen that before, too. And I said, yeah, that's about right. It's only crazy if I think it's crazy.
So is it good morning or is it wet morning?
It's kind of damp down here.
Yeah, it's pretty damp over here, too.
It's not pouring rain, but it's damp.
No, it's just that constant rain that feels almost like pins and needles if you go outside without a coat on. But it's constant, so it's like just everything is soaked.
Yep, I figure they'll have the fireman lifted by the end of this week, and so next week.
Oh, it's already lifted.
Oh, is it already lifted? Oh, okay.
Already lifted. Lifted it on Friday.
Oh, okay. I must have missed the announcement.
So, this morning, because the kids aren't in school, they decided to make eggnog.
Oh, yay.
Yeah, it actually turned out really good. Although one thing I've never been able to understand, how is it that the eggnog you buy in the store never separates, but every time you make eggnog at home, it'll separate and you have to stir it every time you want to have a drink?
Oh, I've got something to fix that for you.
Oh, do you?
I do. I finally bought some stuff to keep my hot sauces from separating.
Guar gum?
Xanthan gum.
Xanthan gum. Cool. I didn't think that would actually work in a drink. I thought that was only for like. Xanthan gum is used in bread making when you're making it.
Yeah, it's used in everything. It's a thickener and a stabilizer.
Really?
Yeah.
I only knew about its use in gluten-free bread.
Yeah. No, it's used in multiple things. I bought a whole bag of it for making my hot sauces so that my hot sauces stop separating and they always look cool. I'll be using it in my next batch of hot sauce, but if you want your eggnog to not separate, you can try a bit. It's in the cupboard where I keep all the herb collections. Be careful when you open the bag and make sure you seal it.
So open it like a crazy 3-year-old who's ripping into a bag of gummies?
Right. And then you can get me another batch of that stuff from Amazon, which is the only place I could find it.
Yeah, they used to sell it at Bulk Barn, but I wasn't able to find it when I went looking.
Yeah, they used to have it in grocery stores. because people used to use it all the time for all of their recipes. It's not just for gluten-free. It's for multiple types of recipes and sauces and everything else. It's great sauce thickener too.
Okay. I've never actually seen it as an ingredient,
Yeah, it's
except for in gluten-free.
look on multiple products. You'll see xanthan gum listed as an ingredient.
Huh.
It's kind of the last ingredient in the list because it's a minute amount.
Okay.
And if you put it into the eggnog, I would recommend probably a quarter to a half teaspoon maximum in a 1 quart or larger. It doesn't take much.
Okay.
At least not
Yeah,
everything I was
kid
reading on
in
it doesn't take much at all.
doesn't take what?
Doesn't take much at all for everything I was reading.
Ah.
So
Yeah, the kid accidentally made like 2 large mixing bowls worth of this stuff because she was following the recipe in the old Canadian cookbook.
Yeah.
And those recipes never make a tiny amount of anything.
That's because they were made for families. Back in the day when women used to pump out 5 and 6 kids, you know.
And it was really entertaining when the kids were first reading it. I told them, okay, give me the ingredients list of everything that you need because I'm out at the store right now. And they gave me the list of the whipping cream and ginger ale and, you know, all the ingredients. And then at the bottom of the list was 1 quart bourbon or rum. I'm like, I'm not getting that for you guys.
Well, it needs, you gotta have bourbon or rum to make the eggnog right. I mean, if it doesn't have that bourbon or rum flavor, it's not gonna work.
You know, they've never actually had it with that in there, but I have to give it to them. It was very smooth.
Nice work, kids. Nice work.
Yeah. Like, no, I'm not getting that for you guys. You guys can make the eggnog and drink the eggnog without the bourbon or rum.
Yeah, well, the adults will add their bourbon or rum later.
And yes, ginger ale. Ginger ale is one of the ingredients that gets put into this. Like, there's a quarter whipped cream and a quart of milk and a quart of ginger ale, and apparently a quart of rum or bourbon. But
that's an awful lot of bourbon and rum in that one mix.
I know.
There's going to be some seriously drunk people from that eggnog.
Yeah, I'm thinking that this eggnog was for the adults for doing all the Christmas decorations.
Yeah, for tolerating all the kids that they pumped out.
Yeah. Hey, Hamdan, good to see you.
All right, just in time. It's time for music. Carry us to showtime on that lovely tune of a quart of whipped cream, a quart of rum, a quart of eggnog, or a quart of milk, and a quart of what? What's that? You end up with 4 quarts and 1/4 of it's rum. Yeah, I like that mix. Yeah. All right, a little bit of music.
These are the days of thunder. We're gonna make time stand still. A quarter after midnight, and I'm watching the wall. Sometimes I feel so uptight, I just can't sleep at all. Every day doing the same old thing, we're losing time. The weekend comes, we gotta have some fun and rewind. These are the days of thunder. We're gonna make time stand still. We gotta feel the hunger, hanging over the edge just to taste the thrill. I feel the rope tightening, choking off our air. We need to grab some lightning. Friday's almost here. Caught in a web, we need to cut this thread we're hanging by. Where is it said you have to be half dead to survive? These are the days of thunder. We're gonna make time stand still. We gotta feel the hunger, hanging over the edge just to taste the thrill. gonna make time stand still. We gotta feel the hunger, hanging over the edge just to taste the thrill. These are the days of thunder. We're gonna make time stand still. We gotta feel the hunger, hanging over the edge just to taste the thrill. These are the days of thunder.
Alrighty. Shall we go?
Absolutely.
Off we get.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is time for WordPress Plugins A to Z, not Z.
It's episode 612, and we have plugins for Bottoming Out and Geolocation and some WordPress news, all coming up on WordPress Plugins from A to Z. WordPress. It's the most popular content management and website solution on the internet. And with over 80,000 plugins to choose from, how do you separate the junk from the gems? Join us for a weekly, unrehearsed conversation about the latest and greatest in WordPress plugins. This is WordPress Plugins from A to Z. Well, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you happen to be hiding out there on the globe today. Coming to you direct from the brewery overlooking Greater Southern Vancouver Island, where everything is lovely and happy today, where up north they're making eggnog that's 25% alcohol, and yes, it is almost Friday. We got all kinds of stuff here. My brain is just slipping in and out of all the places. I got all kinds of great things to say, but you know what?
Thank you for sharing, John. Now get down from that soapbox.
You got a distraction brain noodle.
That's exactly what just happened. I had it all lined up, and then I looked over and read Hemdian's comment and went, bang, glitch, glitch.
Distraction noodles, man. They make for really entertaining openings.
Uh-huh.
So welcome everyone to episode 612. We are calling it Don't Get Stung by Bad WordPress Plugins. We've got a couple of great in-depth plugins to cover for you, some recent news in both WordPress world and the tech world in general, and some awesome WordPress tips. You know, I gotta say, I do love October. October, it's really the actual beginning of fall in my mind, and I've lived in a few places around the world. I've lived in England, New Zealand, US, and Canada. And of all 4 places I've lived, fall always smells the same. I mean, fall is at the opposite time of year in New Zealand, but it still smells the same. You still smell the candles, the leaves, the wood smoke. It all smells the same, which is really cool. I really love fall. It's my favorite time of year, and October is my absolute favorite time of year because of Halloween. Anyone who's been listening for a while will probably remember that. Although, unfortunately, it seems like nobody's updating their Halloween plugins. That makes me sad.
No. We've gone through them all many, many times over the years, and there's no new ones.
No, there's not.
We don't have
I'm
any
sad.
entertaining people anymore in the plugin development world. They all grew up and got jobs, and all the new young ones aren't as crazy.
No, they're not. They're all like normal. It's weird.
Yes, there's something wrong with them. They were broken.
So a few reminders before the show starts today. Show starts at 12:30 p.m. Pacific time with the pre-stream starting about 12:15 Pacific time. Pre-stream is where we twiddle the dials and knobs and really just warm up our voices. We also have some pretty entertaining conversations, like today we were talking about the eggnog recipe that the kids made. And our show notes for each episode can be found at wppluginsa2z.com. The newest show notes will be up within 24 hours after the show on our front page. And don't forget, this is a value for value show, and you are a big part of its creation. You are our producers, our listeners. You are part of the entire creation of the show, so help us to produce. Get on out there, hit some like buttons, and share an episode or two. Let people know that you helped to produce the longest running WordPress plugins podcast. You know, that is a bit of a tongue twister.
Yeah, it's a same button.
So our artist today, I have down Angel Lamu, but I can't remember if I actually double checked that.
You
So
didn't.
we might need to double check it live.
You need to. It's Greg's Graphics.
Greg's Graphics, okay. So yeah, I missed something. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
We can fix it in post.
Everything gets fixed in post.
Absolutely.
Every single time.
The smell of autumn, ode to rotting tree.
Yeah, well, that too.
Well, not rotting tree, rotting leaves. You gotta be specific. The
Well-
trees aren't dead, they're just going to sleep. It's their leaves that are rotting.
Oh no, some of the trees are rotting too.
Shh, they don't want you to know that.
Especially out in the forest where I get to go hunting real soon.
Oh, this one. Yes, I really do like this photo.
Yeah.
I am a Scorpio, so I have a thing about scorpions. I like them. They're
Yeah.
my friends.
Yeah, well, it was cool, and it popped the title into me, and I went, "Yep, we'll go with that today." Yes, we've used this one a couple of times. We really need some new art, folks. Really do.
We do. We're going through the art vault, and the stuff from the art vault is awesome. And then all of our artists get to be brought up and put into the spotlight again.
Mhm.
But we would love to have some new art.
Yeah.
If you think that you'd be interested and you just aren't sure what you'd like to make, go through our art vault. See if you get inspired.
Yeah.
You can check them out at WP Plugins A-Z.com/artwork.
Yeah.
And
Otherwise,
you can send them in to us there too.
otherwise, I'm gonna have to create the art again, and we don't want that.
Well, it's definitely not as pretty.
No, it's not as pretty. I don't take as much time to it, and I'm not a creative artist like many of these. I am occasionally, when I hit the mood, but usually it's when I'm designing my own logo.
Yeah, and that doesn't happen often.
No, those are far-flung inspired moments.
All right, let's get to the news.
All right, let's pop in there and talk about the news.
Please, can everybody be quiet? Please be quiet. Shut up! And now the news with Amber.
All right, so to start off this week, we have the WordPress vulnerability report from PatchStack. The link doesn't change, so if you go to our show notes, you'll see the same link, but it's always going to be the same link so long as we're going with PatchStack, and I think we're going to be sticking with them because they are constantly updating. The way to check it out, we've gone through it in a couple of our shows now, but if you're looking when you first get there, it's just a list of every vulnerability, but up at the top, you can choose what kind of vulnerability, what area you find it in, whether it's all of WordPress or themes or plugins, what have you. And what it does is it gives you the list from the most recent to the oldest vulnerability that they have in this list. So it's definitely worth going to check out. It'll help keep you on top, and it's pretty easy to just choose which one you want. Oh, that's the other thing too, is you can choose which severity. Now, it's automatically set from 0 to 10, which means you get the really low severity and the really high severity all at once. But if you're looking just for really important, like high severity issues, you want to know what's going on, you can set the severity level to like 5 to 10 or what have you. So very useful. It just takes a little bit getting used to after we went with iThemes for so long.
Yep. And there's a new feature heading out and coming out in WP Pro A-Z hosting for those that'll be hosted with me, and that is the tools that they'll be available. They'll be able to just quickly know if their plugins are having issues.
That will be a lot of help too.
Yep.
Next, we have WordPress 6.4 Beta 1 released. So this beta release happened on September 26th, and it was on schedule. For those who are into testing out beta versions, you will find font management, block hooks, lightbox for images, expanded design tools, command palette updates, list view enhancements, and a new 2024 default theme all to test out. So for those who love testing these things out, have a lot of fun. Next up, we have WordPress.org expands two-factor authentication interface to include security keys. So WordPress.org began testing two-factor authentication, also known as 2FA, as an opt-in feature in May of 2023. The interface and functionality are still in beta, but it appears to be properly operational at this point. As the login user, you can set up the keys by visiting by visiting your WordPress.org profile, scrolling down to security section, and clicking on the support forum profile link. Now, I don't want to go through the whole walkthrough. This is just letting you know what's going on. if you want to have the full walkthrough, you can go to our show notes, click on the link, and take the walkthrough on there. And next we have WordPress.com. Oh my goodness, I can't talk today.
Yeah, well, you're doing all right.
WordPress.com plugin pages add download link for using plugins on self-hosted sites.
Yeah.
So
Go ahead.
WordPress.com plugin pages have been updated to include a download link for WordPress.org plugins listed in the .com directory. So this has been kind of a point of contention for the last couple of weeks for those who are aware.
Yeah. This is how Matt extracted his foot out of his mouth.
Yes. So these listings were scraped from .org and are available for free on .org for self-hosted sites, but can only be used on .com with a paid subscription. There is an explanation now on the difference between .org and .com in the sidebar, and it appears that both logged in and logged out. It appears to both logged in and logged out users.
Yep.
Themes hosted on .com have a similar notice with a link to download them and use it on the self-hosted site. The notice was added in response to developers raising concerns about .com plugin listings outranking the .org on Google search in some instances.
Yep.
During that discussion, many developers were surprised to learn that their plugins created for .org were also listed on .com and only available as paid subscription.
Yeah.
PatchStack has updated its README file to ensure that .com users and visitors are made aware that the plugin is available for free in the official WordPress plugin repository. It has been noted by some that they would prefer a link to the actual plugin page where they can see and participate in reviews, and it has been suggested that the omission of a link back to .org may be intentional, as it would take users off the .com site, which does not facilitate customers upgrading to paid plans in order to use plugins.
Nah, they'd never do that. No.
So there's a lot going on in this whole discussion here.
Yeah, it was quite entertaining.
Yeah, this article, it's kind of like the tip of the iceberg. It's more how it's being solved, but they have links throughout the article so that you can link back and read all about it if you want.
If you haven't had enough drama in your day, go read it. Then you can get all the drama you need for the day. It's basically what it boils down to.
If you want to learn more, you can go to our show notes and follow the link. And I do agree with Hemdian, 2FA, twice is effing annoying.
Yeah, I was thinking 2 effing all,
Yeah.
To F all, it's really truly irritating. I hate 2FA.
Well, I mean, we're all strong believers in security. Like Hemdian says the guy who's a strong believer in security. Yeah, this isn't just security. This is just irritating.
Yeah, it's irritating.
There are other ways to do security without having to do this.
Yeah, well, the problem is they have to cater to the lowest common denominator, and the lowest common denominator needs 2FA.
True. All right.
They're the people that still use QRTY as their password. QWERTY. QWERTY. They use QWERTY as their password still, or they actually use password as their password.
Yeah, I love that one.
And surprisingly, in a analysis wasn't too long ago, it's still the #1 used password.
I'm actually surprised that F-off isn't the #1 used password.
I found that one time. And when a computer that was given to me, a laptop, they had put a password on the BIOS, and I tried everything to hack into it, and I got mad and typed F-off into the keyboard, and I got in. I went, really? That was the password? Holy crap.
Yeah, I'm surprised that one isn't actually the most used password.
Mm-hmm. It probably is used a fair bit. All right, on to your next one. Let's bring more entertainment and joy.
So next one is Matthias Clute acquires social link pages plugins. So I wanted to give everyone a heads up. If you're a social link pages plugins user, it has changed hands, and there are many plans in development on making this plugin better. They're looking to sorry. Hendian said, who still uses QWERTY as a password? I've upgraded to ASDF. So if you use Social Link Pages plugin, it's going to change. They're looking to change it for the better. The person who has acquired it, he acquired it, but he acquired it after going through all of the code and learning how this plugin works, and he's wanting to build on it to make it run smoother, not with more items. So I'm hoping that he actually keeps it going as is, but like just does actually help make it better.
Cool.
So just a heads up for everyone.
Well, we shall see.
And the last one I have here is something that was sent in to us from a listener. How to use Microsoft's Windows file recovery on Windows 10 and Windows 11. This is actually quite useful because 10 and 11 won't do things the way that Windows used to at all.
No.
And and if you are someone who hasn't had to use the file recovery yet, since you've started using 10 or 11, and you accidentally delete something and you have that ice cold panic well up inside of you and you're suddenly frozen and you can't figure out how to fix it because the old keyboard hacks don't work anymore, this would be a good thing to save. It's a great article. It's definitely worth bookmarking. It takes you through a walk on both exactly what Windows file recovery is if you're entirely new to it, when and how to use it. So it's really good, really helpful, and I do recommend that people do bookmark it. And even if you don't bookmark it for yourself, bookmark it for the others who use the computer. That way they can help themselves.
Yeah. Yeah, once upon a time I used to have tons of those cool tools. Back in the day when I had a computer store.
And then we've got our extras here, which we got a whole bunch more from the tavern here. And we also got a couple of other things, like UK quietly dismisses independent AI advisory board, alarming tech sector. That one's an interesting article. I recommend people check it out.
Yeah, what's the worry? Yeah, he's going to take over the world, make us its slaves. You know, it's all good.
You've been watching iRobot too much.
I've only watched it a few times.
Dragon rating time.
All right, let's move along then. Alrighty, first plugin I've got for you out the gate today. Date. You know what the hell, they rhyme. Anyway, first plugin I've got for you out the gate today is a continuation of the plugin I had described and talked about in last episode, the If So plugin. Well, this one here is the If So geolocation tool. It's an add-on to the If So plugin, which the If So one uses geolocation data to a certain extent, IP recognition. And if you get the premium, it gives you multiple, like if they're repeat customers, and it shows specific content to people based upon all of these different rules. Well, the geolocation one is actually quite fun to play with if you're doing some really heavy-duty targeting. Now, they've got it set up so that they give you 250 credits towards however many sessions are created. So if you got a low visit site or a medium visit site, you'll be okay. If you got a really high traffic site, you're probably going to have to go buy their program to get more credits for the locations. What it does is it geolocates people all the way down to the city. And surprisingly, even in the greater Victoria area here, we have multiple cities here within the area. We have the one I'm in, which is Esquimalt, and then we have Victoria, which you don't even know when you go from one to the other. And I keep forgetting that aspect because all my mail comes to Victoria, not Esquimalt. But I was experimenting with it, and I set Victoria, and I was checking it out, and it's like, oh, why isn't it showing? And then I went and looked, oh, it geolocates all the way down to Esquimalt. As soon as I added Esquimalt, the specialized content showed up for just that one city. So you can geo-target that narrowly with this. And
that is cool.
And what it allows you, I thought that was pretty cool, which at the same time, it's also scary as hell that the IPs are down to that point now, which I knew that was happening, but It's both cool and scary at the same time. But if you're doing sales or you've got targeted ads or targeted content on your site and you're trying to target to specific towns or areas, you can target specials for people that show up on your site for those areas. And if they show up, they're tagged, they're shown, and all of a sudden they're shown this extra content. And because when you create the content, you create it as basically a extra post, and then it gives you a short code that you can place anywhere on the site you want to have that content show up. You could place in a pop-up, for example, and have it pop up. But on the whole, I found it to be really quite useful, and considering some of the stuff I'm planning for the Oasis coming up this fall, I'm going to make use of this program over on the Oasis's website to target specific content to specific towns or areas. But on the whole, great plugin. You know, aside from the need for the need to have the FSO plugin in front of it, and also if you exceed 250 session calls to it, you have to start paying a bit of money. Great plugin. I am giving the FSO geolocation tool a 5 dragon rating. So go check it out and target.
Oh, I heard the dragon today.
Target your content down to the little itty bitty niche cities within the cities, which is I thought that was just fantastic when it did that.
That is. I love Hemdian's response. So I could post about my drug habits, but exclude my local area so local cops don't see it. Neat.
There you go. Yeah, there's one way it can be used in a whole another realm. That's something I hadn't thought about. Not that the cops care anymore anyway.
So since I heard the dragon so well, so let's see if I hear the sound for WordPress tips.
WordPress tips. Let's go see. You hear it?
Almost. I heard like a blip.
Oh, well.
So I heard it more.
Oh, okay.
I heard something.
You heard something? Well, off you go.
So we would love to hear some tidbit tips from some of our producers out there. What did you figure out by breaking something? Or what did you need to learn in order to help someone? Send them in to me at amber@wppro.ca, and we'll get them up here, and they'll replace my... I'm starting to think my tips are just boring.
Well, they might be. You never know.
They might be, but I don't know. No one's telling me.
Well, then when no one tells you, you just assume it's the most fantastic thing in existence.
I like that logic. I'll go with it.
Mm-hmm.
So, making sites. When you're building a site for another person and you feel like you have finished a job, but that person or client comes back to you with a list of all these tiny little changes, don't get frustrated. These tiny little changes are so insignificant to you, but to them, these tiny little changes are huge. These little changes make the difference for them on whether or not the site is great or horrible. You may be the one building the site, but for them, it's kind of their baby. It's a reflection of themselves. This is something that they are pouring themselves into. It's a representation of who they or their company are, and it is a direct reflection of them. So having the wrong font or the wrong header bolded, these are tiny things to you, but make a world of difference for them. And if you think I'm over-exaggerating, overstating this, you try putting a project that is a representation of who you or your company are into someone else's hands. Allow them to have absolute control of this, only able to give verbal instructions, never touching the project with your own hands, but trying to get the reflection just right. Your clients are placing a lot of trust in you, allowing you to have absolute control over how the world is going to see them or their company. So don't get frustrated as they try to guide your hands to make the perfect reflection of themselves to show the world. See it for what it is, absolute trust in you. Don't throw that back in their faces by making them feel like they are irritating you or making a big deal out of nothing.
Yeah, that happens.
It does, and unfortunately, there are a lot of really bad experiences for clients where they had someone who would get really frustrated, and so they find a different developer. They fire that one, get a different one, and then they're afraid to say anything because this developer's doing such a good job, but now they're afraid to piss them off or afraid to upset them, and so they don't actually get entirely what they want.
Yep.
So it does go both ways. That street does go both ways, but for people who are newer to the scene, keep this in mind. And some beginner's tips. if you are new to working with clients, don't be afraid to ask them for clarification on things. If you don't know the right words to get them to understand where your confusion is, take pictures. TechSmith is a great program, and there are other things you can use too. Even screenshots are great. Highlight the area you're confused about and ask your questions. And if you have an idea but are not sure, do a mock-up and ask if it looks right. If you don't know how to do that on a computer, grab a piece of paper. Even a hand-drawn mock-up is better than fumbling with words and not being able to get your confusion fixed. Pictures are a fantastic tool, so don't be afraid to use them. And also, don't over-dumb things down. Use normal human speech as much as possible, but where there is no other option than geek speak, go ahead and just use it. Your client may surprise you and know exactly what you're talking about. However, just in case they don't know exactly what you're talking about, be sure to add into your communication something along the lines of, please don't hesitate to reach out with any questions. Make sure they know you don't mind being asked for clarification on anything you said or try to explain or anything like that. It will really help down the line with communication.
Yep. That it will. All right.
Oh, that's interesting. Hemdian said, in my writing critique group, we all took turns writing in each other's fictional worlds. It was an interesting experience, and I can see how this related to web design too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, actually.
Yeah. Playing
that-
in somebody else's sandbox, man.
Yeah. All right, now on to my plugin. I brought Keep New Admin Menu Items in Bottom. This is actually a pretty useful plugin. It is brand new, fresh out of the box, and I decided to try it out. I mean, I don't know about everyone else out there, but I kind of find it irritating when I download a new plugin, and then I gotta search the whole left-hand menu bar to figure out where it decided to insert itself.
Yeah. The magic of new plugins. Where did they put it?
Yes.
Is it in this menu? This menu? Is it in the main menu? Is it in the sub menu? Did it create its own new menu?
That's also why when I bring the plugins, I tell you exactly where to look, because it can be really confusing. What these guys do is they take every single plugin that has a dashboard and they squish it all down in the bottom underneath the settings. It's really useful.
Cool.
I mean, the plugins that you download, I downloaded a few plugins after I activated this one so that I could see what would happen when you added new plugins. Well, it turns out it's still just as random. There is no pattern, but they're all contained under the settings.
Well, at least you sort of know where they're gonna be instead of is it at the top, the middle, you know. Did they alphabetize it? And yeah, I learned when I was learning to write a bit of plugins that what determines it is you can tell it what the priority is in the menu, so you can make them go anywhere you want in the menu.
Well, this plugin overrides that, squishes them all down to the bottom underneath the settings. It ends up prioritized within that section under settings.
Cool.
But that's it. So it's very useful. It really does help. And they don't have a dashboard themselves. It's just a plug and play. And I really like it. It plays nice with others. It seems to be a very light plugin, so it doesn't slow you down, doesn't cause any issues that I was able to find. I tested on a couple different sites. A slower site I tested on just to see if it would slow it down anymore, and it did not.
Yeah.
So it seems like a really good plugin, well written, and I definitely recommend this. I think I'm actually going to be adding this one to my first group of plugins to add into any site because I like not having to play hide and seek. It's great. Oh, the plugins that insert themselves into settings, those won't get moved. Those will stay under settings.
Yeah. Okay.
Is there a reorder admin menu items and a move to submenu function? I have not found that, although that was an interesting idea to search for.
Maybe.
So I rate this at 5 dragons.
Very cool. Yeah, it's kind of interesting, the plugins that come because some developer out there was having an irritating day over something, so he wrote himself a plugin to solve the problem. Because that's basically what this is. This is a plugin to solve a problem that somebody was having.
Yep. And everyone else is like, Yay!
Yay! Somebody wrote something that I can use.
So, on to our producer know-how and donation segment.
Absolutely.
It's time to donate to WP Plugins A-Z.
So, first thing that we would like you to know about is the fact that you can earn yourself one of 3 different producer credits. First one is freelance producer. That one you earn just by listening. We have our backroom producers who have a few perks, and then we have our workroom producers who have a bunch of perks. If you want to learn a bit more about that, you can head on over to our show notes and read it up, or you can go to our website and look in the main menu on the left-hand side, click on Time, Treasure, or Talent Donations, and you will be able to read all about it. There are lots of ways to join in and be part of your own production, because remember, you are our producer, so this is your production. By listening and helping out and adding in your 2 cents, you are helping to produce this awesome podcast. The different ways you can help and support this podcast is to send in your own plugin license or support by subscribing, donating. There are all kinds of ways. I've listed them all out in our show notes. You can also find them on our website. It doesn't appear that we have any questions, notes, or feedback from our producers out there this week, but we do have some miscellaneous announcements. Nothing from our producers, but we have some announcements just about the WordPress world in general. If anybody out there listening has something to announce, like they're going to be up on a stage at WordCamp or something like that, you can reach out to us and we'll put it into this miscellaneous announcements section. So if you're interested in finding a WordPress meetup somewhere around the world, we do have the link where you can go and check that out. It's a meetup.com/pro/WordPress. If you are specifically in Victoria, BC, you can keep an eye on the WordPress meetups for Victoria, BC. We have the link here. There's nothing right now. They seem to be on a lull right now. But then again, the weather is just turning bad. So everybody has to get used to the cold before we can actually do the meetups, I think. That's my theory. There are 5 notable WordCamps planned for this month around the world. What is firstly listed here is WordCamp Misaka 2023. That will be October 6th to 7th. WordCamp Biarritz in France, October 6th. Community Building Workshop in Japan, October 6th. WordCamp Bhopal 2023, October 7th to 8th. And WordCamp Taiwan 2023, October 14th. Now, there are loads more. You just need to go and check out the link. central.wordcamp.org. The link is there in our show notes for you to check out and peruse in your own time. And then we have all the ways you can reach us. We have our brick and mortar address, our virtual addresses. Feel free to reach out to us if you have questions or advice or tidbits or what have you. Reach out to us, even if you just want to say hi. And today's plugins we covered were...
I covered up the IfSo geolocation plugin by IfSo Plugin. It's got, great HTML5 geolocation, browser location, which helps you narrow it down to even your little cities within the cities of an area you live. And you can also set it up. It's got codes to set up really fun stuff. So if they show up, you can have it set up a user's country flag or log the geolocation requests and a whole lot more stuff than what I mentioned in my little review of it. So go check it out. The IfSo geolocation plugin, which I gave a 5 dragon rating.
And I covered Keep New Admin Menu Items in Bottom by Plit. Organizes your new plugins to the bottom of the left-hand menu. Organizes their plugins that are already installed into the bottom beneath the settings menu item, which I thought that was really cool. It's not just any plugins you install after the fact, but anything you'd already installed is all squished down the bottom. It's great. Allows for easier organization rather than having to play hide and seek with your new plugin installs. And I rated this at 5 dragons.
Very cool.
It's question and answer time with John and Amber.
Hemdian said, whenever I hear WordCamp, in my mind, I see a bunch of geeks in tents in the woods complaining about the lack of Wi-Fi.
Nah, they wouldn't. Yeah, I guess they would have tents. Not very good tents because they don't think it through when they go camping.
I just had an image of a whole bunch of geeks in the middle of the woods complaining about lack of Wi-Fi.
Yes, that's actually
That's awesome.
yeah, that's quite entertaining.
So if anyone out there has any questions they'd like to have asked in this section here on the show, send them in to me at amber@wppro.ca, and we'll see if we can stop my dad. Hasn't happened yet, but it might, especially if some listeners out there decide to help. So for those new to the scene, can you explain in easily understood terms how to search for a good plugin? Specifically, how can you tell which ones are good to try downloading and activating to test it, and which ones to avoid downloading and activating?
I guess the best way, my experience has been that I do a read through of their description and their directions on how to use it to see if they don't give you enough clarity in that. I would probably avoid them, because if they won't take enough time to clarify up their instructions or their descriptions, or even with a couple, 3 screenshots, they don't have to have too many screenshots, but they need to have at least one. If they don't even have one screenshot, they're really lazy. So that's when I see those ones there, it's like, yeah, I'll go look for something else that's related first before I would use it. That's the biggest thing, is if they won't take the time to create good usable instructions and descriptions and content and other bits and pieces to tell you about the plugin, then how good of care did they take when they wrote the code?
Hemdian gave us a simple answer. Listen to this show.
Yeah, well, that's one list.
I like it.
One simple answer. Go listen to the show going back over 600 episodes. We've only in the last year have we only been doing 2 plugins per episode. For the longest time, we were doing 6. At one point, was doing 10 plugins a show.
Yeah.
So we covered thousands of plugins over the years. Some have been really fantastic. There's been some real losers out there. Most are in between. They hover around 3 to 4 in their rating. But
yeah, we've mostly been covering the really good ones lately.
Yeah, I've been trying to stick to the really good ones lately, unless I happen to run across a real dog that I want to warn people about.
Yeah.
It's like I haven't even bothered bringing the dogs to the show anymore. I used to bring them to the show just for entertainment value, but that was because I was covering so many plugins. Now we're covering 1 plugin each per show. We want to, highlight good plugins that will actually help you out. Unless, of course, we run into one that's got people all a titter about, and no, here's the problem with this plugin.
Or we run into one of those plugins that is really popular, but for some reason is starting to go downhill.
Yeah.
We definitely want to give people a heads up about that.
Yeah, there's that too. So yeah, basically it's all about looking at the how well they do their descriptions and their documentation for the plugin. Their documentation, to see if the documentation it doesn't have to be 100% thorough, but it's got to be usable.
That makes sense.
Because if they can't do their documentation, how did they do the plugin? Did they even document their code when they went through and did it?
Documenting code. That's not something I've ever thought about. Is that a thing?
It's a big thing. Even when I write my own codes, I document it inside. And as a warning to coders out there, don't make snarky remarks that your client might actually read. I did that once. Making snarky remarks about the code, and then the client, last thing I thought was the client was going to go in there and read the code. It's like, and they asked me questions about it. Well, I was having an irritating day with the code. What can I say? So my documentation contained irritating, snarky remarks. But yeah, just so be aware of that. Your client might actually decide to read the code. They're kind of a rare breed of client that actually reads code, but they exist.
So Hemdian makes a really good fair point. Even hearing about the dogs can give you ideas of what might be out there, and then you can then go look.
Yep, there's that too. Yeah.
All right, so next question. Say you have 3 plugins for, we'll say, sticky social buttons. What makes a good one versus a bad one? Like, how would you be able to tell which of the three would be the best one to choose? Say they all basically do the same thing, basically have the same functions. What would you be looking at beyond that?
The fine-tuning controls, because I've had this
Yeah.
problem with sticky social buttons. Stick them in the side, have them float up and down, have them stick in the bottom or show up on pages. It's the fine-tuning of, can you control how many pixels from the top, from the left that it will float? Can you easily change out the graphic image that's going to be used there instead of their default ones, which are usually quite ugly?
Okay.
It's like how much fine-tuning control do you get over the basics is what makes the better one. And that's what makes, because there are probably hundreds of sticky social button plugins now.
Oh yeah.
And it's really hard to choose. You just got to you got to look at the ones that I had to choose a new one recently, and there were so many. The one that won me over was the one that had the best documentation. Again, I went with, how good was their documentation to show me what I need to know before I install it and have to experiment with it, because I can read things through faster than I can install it and activate it and tweak and play with it. So
Yeah.
it's like what makes good versus bad is how much fine-tuning control you get, because there's a lot of them out there that you just plug them in, turn them on, and they just go, and they don't allow you to do anything. They just sit there. Well, that works for those that are that lazy and don't really care how good or bad the code is on their site.
Plug and play is great for certain things. Like the keep new admin menu items in bottom, that's a plug and play, but it's not going to be showing up on your site and you don't have to do anything with it.
Yeah, it's not something that's going to show up in the front end of your site, and plug and play in the back end is provided that it's solidly written. It's not going to impact your back end.
Oh, Hemdian added, when choosing, also look at how many downloads and how recently updated.
Yeah, the number of downloads recently updated is kind of important. The number of downloads, because they don't show the number of downloads anymore. What they show is active installations now.
Yeah, I don't fully trust that.
I do, because what that measures is that measures the number of sites that are actively using the plugin. Now, that's not always a good indicator if it's a good or bad plugin, because it might be a relatively new plugin, such as the one you covered today, which has only got fewer than 10 active installations because it's a brand new plugin. I mean,
that's why I'm not. That's why I'm saying it was okay. I shouldn't say I don't trust it. I should say I wouldn't rely too heavily on it, because there are also some amazing plugins that are like 3 years old, are kept well updated, but they have very few downloads or activations because people just haven't found them yet.
People haven't found them. It's gotten real harder. People seem to forget. When I started this show, there was less than 9,000 plugins available for WordPress. The last time I announced a total, it was over 70,000 plugins, and now it's probably in a 200,000 plugin range. Or more.
There's over 1,200 plugins just waiting to be checked out.
Yeah, in the repository.
Yeah.
They're waiting to be approved for the repository. So that the number of plugins has gone up so dramatically since I started this show. So it gets harder and harder, and because there's a lot of areas, like I said, there's more than one way to skin a fish. There's dozens of ways that people have approached the same problem. They've come up with different solutions to the same problem, and some are better than others. Some are coded better than others. And
some just work better for you.
And some work better for you. Some people's logic of how they might lay out the menus works way better for you than somebody else's logic for their menu. So it's like it's all about, sometimes you just gotta load and test. So make sure you have a sandbox handy that you can just load plugins on till it collapses under the weight of the plugins.
Although I do definitely agree with how recently updated.
Yeah.
If it has been updated for 8 years, don't do it.
Oh no, I'd still play with it if it's been 8 years. It all depends on what it is. There's a plugin that I used for the longest time until recently, when moving to PHP 8, it wouldn't work anymore. But it was very old. The code was very solid, except for it was using functions that, it's like if I had the time, I could go rewrite the functions in it and make it PHP 8 compatible. But I just moved on to something else. So the age of when it was updated is important, but it's not a major key indicator to me.
All right, well, I have 2 more questions for after the credits.
All right, well, let's let our girl take us on out of here. And for those listening on the downloads, you want the really fun stuff and entertainment, you got to come listen on the YouTubes, catch the pre-show and the post-stream. All right, let our girl take us on out of here.
Reminders for the show. All show notes can be found at wppluginsa-z.com. And while you're there, subscribe to the newsletter for more useful information delivered directly to your inbox. WP Plugins A-Z is a show that offers honest and unbiased reviews of plugins created by developers because you support the show. Help keep the show honest and unbiased by going to wppluginsa-z.com/donate and set the donation level that fits your budget. Help us make the show better for you by subscribing and reviewing the show at Stitcher Radio, Google Play, and in the iTunes Store. You can also leave us a review on our Facebook page using wppluginsa-z.com/Facebook. You can also watch the show live on YouTube, check out the screencasts and training videos, and remember to subscribe and hit the bell to get notifications of all new videos. Follow the show on Twitter at WP Plugins A-Z. John can also be reached at his website, johnoverall.com, or email him directly, john@wppro.ca. Thanks for joining us and have a great day.
Thanks for listening to the show. This show is copyright by johnoverall.com. So until next time, have yourselves a good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you happen to be out there on the globe today.
Alrighty then.
All right, so just real quick here. Hamdian said well-written code should be self-documenting. Never actually happens, but good to aim for.
Yeah,
I've actually never heard of self-documenting.
I've never heard of self-documenting either, but
And what he said is self-documenting includes well-structured, appropriate use of white space and variable names that clearly show what they're for.
oh,
So
okay.
even people not experienced at whatever language you're using can still follow along with what you're doing and easily identify when logic isn't correct.
Oh, okay.
Self-documented code doesn't need separate documentation.
Okay, I understand that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have seen in code, but what I'm talking about is when you do something in there, they make a customized line or something, or they point something in a different direction as to make a comment in the code of what this section might be for. Or with code that's got a lot of code is in sections for this section does this bit, giving titles to the sections so that you know what section you're in the code. The biggest one for me is CSS code. Giving titles to the sections of the code that are controlling. These are controlling all the header fonts. These are controlling these fonts. This is controlling this, and blah blah blah. Things like that is what I do to the code. I do it mostly for my own stuff. So when I come back to it sometime in the future, I can figure out what I was doing.
Yeah, that makes sense. When I first started doing CSS manipulation, I didn't label it very well, and I realized the reason why I wasn't labeling it well was because I was trying to keep the little notation short. It doesn't matter how long that notation is.
No.
Make it as long as you need to make it.
Yeah.
Just make sure you make it clear.
Make sure you make it clear and you can understand it when you get back to it again in the future.
All right, so the next 2 questions I have are actually about etiquette. So, if you found a plugin that almost does what you want, would it be worth reaching out to the developer and asking them about adding in what you are needing or wanting, or would that be presumptive? Like, what would the etiquette be here?
Oh, no, you reach out to them and say, what would you charge me to do this?
Okay.
Because, you're giving them an opportunity from their free plugin to make some money off of all their hard work.
Okay.
Okay. Because they put in a ton of hard work to get that working, or to get that doing what you want it to do. So they've already put in a ton of hard work, and they might not It might not. They might not even have thought about making it into a premium plugin yet. But the moment you ask for something additional to it, they could, and that feature might be useful to other people. They could make that feature part of a premium version of the plugin. So they could
All
still
right.
have the free plugin that everyone is enjoying, and now they can expand it by, hey, buy the premium version for X number of dollars per year, get these bonus pieces here. Boom. So what you've done is you've paid them to expand their plugins. So you've gotten your feature initially, and yes, they're going to use it down the road, but that's okay. Because the biggest problem we had in the WordPress plugin community in the beginning was that every plugin was free. Every single one of them were free. There was almost not every. There was like a small handful of companies that went, no, we're going to start premium, and they starved in the beginning. The biggest one I can think of is Gravity Forms. They were hard pressed in the beginning, because in the beginning they were basically giving away the plugin for $99 for a lifetime license, $99 a year for a lifetime license.
Oh, wow.
That's the license I have with them, because I bought it in the beginning. And as long as I can keep that license active year after year, I get all of the features that they have expanded that plugin to over the years. I think they're like 12, 13 years old now. They're almost as old as this show, or as old as this show, if not older. So, but because everything was free, what people depended on was donations. I used to donate to a lot of plugin developers. There used to be big donate buttons. You don't see them anymore like they used to. And people used to donate via PayPal, $5 here, buy them a cup of coffee, $10, $20. What do you feel the plugins worth? They were trying for the value for value model, but it didn't work. And because of that model, though, initially, people using WordPress came to expect everything was going to be free. And they got grumpy when plugin developers started creating premium versions. And when they did, they found the premium versions that they went pure premium version. Unless it was an exceptional item such as Gravity Forms, they were hard pressed to get enough subscriptions to pay for the thing. So what they backed up to the freemium version. I think you can go back to one of my shows before freemium became a thing, where I predicted the freemium model as it was coming out. And the freemium model is what worked. Give them just enough to find out they will use the plugin and get used to it, and then put all the really good stuff in the premium version. Don't charge too much for the premium license, but charge enough to where you can make a living. And that's what many of them did. And that's why we have the model and system we have now.
Hendian said, suggestions can be good, a form of feedback for the dev about how their code is used. Just don't be entitled. Dev can ignore your suggestions.
Yeah, don't be entitled. Yeah, if you're not entitled, but if you reach out to them and say, hey, I really love your plugin. This sort of feature, I could really use this kind of feature. What would you charge me to add this to your plugin for me? That gets them right in the mood. It's like, oh, you're going to pay me? You're not going to expect it for free? That's the best way to go about it, is tell them because don't expect them to work for free.
No.
And if you approach them with like, hey, what would you charge me? And if they come back with a number that's too high, say hi, negotiate with them until you get something closer that you're willing to pay. If they refuse to negotiate, say, all right, well, I really love your program, but you're just too much money. I can't afford that. Sorry, I'll have to look elsewhere. And then they'll realize they shot themselves in the foot.
Hopefully.
Oh, maybe. Depends on how arrogant they are. But if they don't realize they shot themselves in the foot, well, they can go along and try to make a living and whine about not being able to sell their plugin later. But most of them will usually reach out with you with a reasonable charge for taking it. I've had a couple of developers over the years where they had just almost what I needed, and when I reached out to offer them payment, they're like, okay, and I ended up paying them maybe a couple $100 for the coding time, and then I got what I needed. So, because you got to remember, almost all the hard work is already done for them. They've already gotten the basic plugin.
Yeah, they're just adding on to it.
They're just adding on to it. They've got now. It's still hard work, but it's not all the hard work. They don't have to create it from scratch. They just got to figure out how to integrate that component into what exists.
Ooh, good analogy. They're adding the icing on after they already baked the cake.
Yeah, pretty much.
So my last question. Say you found a plugin that seemed like a great idea, but you download it and activate it and it crashes your site. Do you look first at the plugin or first at your site for the crash? And do you reach out to the developer and ask them about it, or do you try and figure it out yourself? What would the etiquette here be?
Well, I would initially, you look at the plugin, because obviously the plugin interacted with WordPress core some way and broke it. I mean, WordPress core is pretty solid. So if you load a plugin and it goes white screen or whatever the problem is, it's the plugin code of some sort. If you're a bit of a coder, you can look at the plugin yourself and see if you can figure out why. Go look at the error codes that were created, find the error generation, and find out what and why it occurred. If you can't get to the error codes, well, so be it. If it's a plugin you really, really need, or is it something you're just testing to see if it was useful? If it's something you need, you reach out to the developer and say, hey, I loaded it up and this is what happened. And if they really want to solve the problem, they'll reach back with you and they'll say, hey, can you get us more information about the configuration of your site, blah, 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 blah. If it's something you don't need or something you're just testing, you just go in through FTP, deactivate the plugin, reload your site, turf out the plugin, and move on to the next test item.
All right.
You know, I don't waste time. I don't waste time on it if it's nothing. If it's something I'm just testing. If I'm testing several plugins of the same genre, then I just sort of go, this one's no good. Move on to the next one.
Now, if it breaks your site, is it something you should report to the developer or just kind of leave it?
Well, it depends on how much time you have and how nice you're going to be. You know, you should it should be reported to the developer. Should be reported to the developer and see if they'll do something about it. Say, hey, look, I was testing your plugin. It broke my site. Here's what happened. Boom. Leave it in their hands. You know, if you don't have time and you're pressed for time, you're testing tons of plugins, well, maybe you won't get around to it. I mean, in theory, you should tell the developer about it because they'd probably like to know if they've got something breaking websites because they're trying to build something that they could sell in the future.
Emdian said, if lots of people are using the plugin, crash is probably due to your site. Otherwise, or else plugin isn't good. Although, what if it says that there's a lot of activations and it crashes your site?
Okay.
And you go and look in the comments and you see a few other people have complained about it, or there's a couple tickets.
No, then there's probably.
Do you add to the tickets or you just wait?
You can add to the tickets, but okay, in that case, I didn't even consider that case. If it's a pretty active plugin, lots of people using it, and you load it and it crashes your site, the problem is another plugin on the website that you have, and they've conflicted with each other. That is still a problem in WordPress, is plugin conflicts. You know, they're both trying to make the same call or whatever, and boom, crash. It used to happen a whole lot more than it does now.
I've had it happen a few times. Yeah. It's not fun trying to figure out what's going on.
No, if it's a plugin, like, again, it rolls back to, is it a plugin you really need or something you were testing or something you hope to solve a problem, or were there other plugins that would provide the same solution? Turf the one out that's creating problems, because now you don't want to have to debug your entire website. You just want to turf out the one that's coming in and fighting with everyone else.
I remember a while back, I found a plugin called Dobby. I love that one, especially because of the name, but it did a really good job hiding all the notices, and it was discreet. I really liked it.
Yeah, I remember that one.
But unfortunately, Dobby interacted poorly with, I can't remember the name of it right now, but it's a slide, a slide plugin, really good one.
Yeah.
And what it was doing is, while Dobby was activated, it messed up the dashboard of the slide plugin. So when you went to go work on your slides, Slider Revolution, there we go. It messed up the Slider Revolution dashboard.
Yeah.
Made it really hard to do any work. And it took me a while to figure out that it was Dobby. Finally I got around to it and I turned off Dobby and everything was fine. And unfortunately, that was something that never managed to get resolved because it only happened with Slider Revolution, and it doesn't seem like Slider Revolution is overly popular. But you will find that there are problems like that, where it's like a plugin will just
Yeah.
kind of sort of mess up one other thing, and there's not much you can do about it.
Yeah, well, Slider Revolution has lost its glimmer when they made some major
Yeah.
changes to it. It used to be extremely popular, and that was also when sliders were big and popular. You know, and sliders are like everything else in WordPress; they come and go in fashion. You know,
Hamdian said you can turn off all the plugins and turn back on one at a time until you hit the magic combo. That is why it sucks.
yeah, that's unless you really need that plugin you're trying to install, that's way too much work for me to deal with.
Especially since some of the plugins that are so useful that you already have all set up, as soon as you deactivate them, you lose all that information.
Yeah, there's a
I'm
couple.
noticing that doesn't happen much anymore.
No, there are a few out there that still do that. You turn them off and you lose settings. It's like, what the hell is wrong with you guys?
Yeah.
You know,
It's depressing. A few years ago, even I noticed more. Like a few years ago, more plugins did that. I've noticed over the past few years, a lot less plugins are doing that.
mhm.
I really appreciate the developers going in there and fixing that.
Yeah. Well, they probably got enough complaints from people. Is basically what it boiled down to. It's like, well, I turned it off to do some debugging stuff. I turned it on. Now all my settings and all my functions. What I got to reset
And
this
of
up?
course, those are the settings that took you 2 hours to perfect.
Of course, it's never going to be. It's never going to be the ones that were set up in a minute and a half. It's always going to be
No.
the stuff you had to tweak to the nth degree.
And you know what none of us think about when we spend that 2 hours setting up those settings?
Hmm.
To take a damn picture of it.
Yeah. There's that problem too, but it is what it is.
All right, well, that is the end of my questionnaire.
All right. Well, I think that wraps us up. We'll call that a bit of a show, and we will have a little music. Thanks, everyone, for showing up. Appreciate you, Hendian. We always love the Peanut Gallery. Keeps us entertained and on our toes. So we'll play a little music to carry us on out of here.
These are the days of thunder. We're gonna make time stand still. A quarter after midnight, and I'm watching the wall. Sometimes I feel so uptight, I just can't sleep at all. Every day doing the same old thing, we're losing time. The weekend comes, we gotta have some fun and rewind. These are the days of thunder. We're gonna make time stand still. We gotta feel the hunger, hanging over the edge just to taste the thrill. I feel the rope tightening, choking off our air. We need to grab some lightning. Friday's almost here. Caught in a web, we need to cut this thread we're hanging by. Where is it said you have to be half dead to survive? These are the days of thunder. We're gonna make time stand still. We gotta feel the hunger, hanging over the edge just to taste the thrill. These are the days of thunder. We're gonna make time stand still. We gotta feel the hunger, hanging over the edge just to taste the thrill. These are the days of thunder. We're gonna make time stand still. We gotta feel the hunger, hanging over the edge just to taste the thrill. These are the days
righty, folks. That's all we've got for you now. Take care. Bye-bye.
Take care.
Oh my god, that is amazing!
Oh no. Obviously, we just lost